You have a firm to run, a team to manage, and a mountain of data to protect. You likely have an IT provider who keeps your computers running. But do you have a qualified individual ensuring you stay on the right side of the law? Welcome to The Qualified Individual, the 10-minute briefing for smart accounting firms. I'm your host, and I'm here to help you bridge the gap between standard IT and total FTC compliance. Every episode, we strip away the jargon to talk about the FTC Safeguards Rule, the hidden risks your MSP is likely missing, and the strategies that protect your client data and your personal liability. So, let's grab your coffee and let's get to work. It's happening more and more. A CPA firm gets a security questionnaire from one of their largest clients. 50 questions covering access controls, encryption, incident response, employee training, third-party management, documentation, and compliance. The first reaction is often frustration. We're a CPA firm, not a technology company. Why are they asking us about this? The reason is straightforward. That manufacturing company has a responsibility to their investors and regulators to understand their data security risks. And that includes the risks associated with vendors who have access to sensitive financial information. Your CPA firm has access to their bank accounts, their accounting records, potentially payroll information, transaction data. If your firm has a breach, it affects them. This is becoming standard practice. I'm seeing more and more mid-sized and larger companies asking security questions of their service providers, and that includes accountants and tax advisors. If you haven't seen this yet, you will. Even some mid-market firms are starting to ask. Here's what's interesting about these questionnaires. They're usually not asking for anything you shouldn't have in place anyway. They're aligned with the FTC Safeguards Rule, with IRS Publication 4557, and with the kind of security practices that cyber insurers are looking for. So, when a client sends you a security questionnaire, you can think of it in two ways. It's a request from a client to understand your security practices, and it's also validation that what you're being asked to demonstrate is standard in your industry. Let me walk you through what these questionnaires typically ask and what it means for your firm. They usually start by asking about access controls. They want to know who has access to our data. How is access managed? Is access role-based? Do you do regular access reviews? Are there written policies for access? This is directly from the FTC Safeguards Rule. Your firm should be able to answer. We maintain a list of who has access to client data. We review that list at least quarterly. We remove access when people leave or change roles. We have a documented access control policy, and we have an offboarding process. The client may ask for evidence. Can you show us your access control policy? Can you show us documentation of your last quarterly access review? Next, they ask about data protection and encryption. Is client data encrypted in transit? Is it encrypted at rest? What's the encryption standard? Do you encrypt attachments in emails? Do you require encryption on files stored on laptops? For a CPA firm, the expectation is usually that client data is encrypted when it's being transmitted over the internet in emails. And that sensitive data is encrypted when stored on systems that could be lost or stolen. You should be able to describe your encryption practices, what systems you use, what data is covered, and what encryption standards you use. Then they ask about authentication and multi-factor authentication. Do you use multi-factor authentication? For which systems? Is it required or optional? Who's required to use it? The trend is clearly toward expecting MFA on all remote access and on access to sensitive systems. Some larger companies now require MFA on any access to their data. You should be able to say, we require MFA for all remote access, and we require MFA on access to our client portal. After that, they ask about monitoring and logging. Do you monitor for suspicious activity? How? What do you do if you detect unusual access patterns? Do you maintain logs of who accessed what data and when? Do you review those logs? This is table stakes for compliance. You should be able to describe your monitoring process, what you're looking for, and what you do when you find something unusual. From there, they ask about incident response. If you discover a breach, what's your process? How quickly would you notify them? Do you have an incident response plan? Have you tested it? Who's responsible for incident management at your firm? You should be able to pull out your incident response plan and walk through it. You should be able to say, we have a documented plan, our qualified individual is responsible for coordinating response, and we would notify you as soon as we've determined that a breach has occurred. They also ask about employee training and security awareness. Do you train your employees on security? How often? What's covered? This is part of the FTC Safeguards rule. You're supposed to maintain and enforce a security awareness and training program. You should be able to describe what training you do, things like phishing awareness, password best practices, data handling, how often you do it, and whether you document it. Another common area is your third-party vendors and how you manage their security. Do you assess the security practices of vendors you use? Do you have service agreements that specify security requirements? Are you monitoring their security performance? This is getting to be a major point. Your clients want to know that you're vetting the security of the vendors you use, particularly around cloud services, backup providers, IT vendors, and software. You should be able to describe your MSP, your cloud providers, your backup solution, and how you verified that they have adequate security practices. And finally, they ask about compliance and audit. Are you compliant with regulatory requirements? Have you had a security audit or risk assessment? Do you have cyber insurance? What coverage does your insurance provide? Now, here's what's important about client security questionnaires. They're not just information gathering. They're increasingly a business issue. If a client is asking you these questions, they're evaluating whether they should keep you as their vendor. If you can't answer the questions, or if your answers indicate insufficient security, some clients will decide to work with a firm that has stronger controls. What often happens is that answering these questionnaires surfaces gaps. A client asks about access reviews, and the firm realizes they haven't been doing them regularly. That gap, once it's on someone's radar, becomes a priority to fix. A few months of work with the IT provider, and the access review process is in place and documented. Now the firm can answer that question confidently, and it becomes a competitive advantage. Clients can see a structured approach to access management, and firms with documented controls tend to get better rates on cyber insurance too. So, here's how you should think about client security questionnaires. They're a forcing function for compliance. They force you to document what you're doing and to identify gaps. When you get a client security questionnaire, have your qualified individual review it and use it as a checklist for your information security program. Are you doing everything the client is asking about? If not, what's the gap? What would it take to address that gap? Then, when you respond to the client, your responses become part of your documentation of your security practices. In fact, I recommend that most firms should be proactively developing a standard response to security questionnaires. Many clients use similar questionnaires, so you might develop a template response that covers your security practices, access controls, encryption, monitoring, incident response, training, vendor management, compliance. Then, when a client asks, you're not starting from scratch. Your response is consistent, it's comprehensive, and it demonstrates that you've thought through these issues. What does that standard response look like? It's a document, maybe 5 to 10 pages, that describes how your firm approaches security. Let me walk you through what the sections might look like. You'd start with an overview, something like, we've implemented an information security program consistent with FTC safeguards, rule requirements, and IRS publication 4557 guidance. Our qualified individual is, and then you'd name them and their title, who reports to our managing partners quarterly on security matters. This document describes our approach to protecting client data and managing security risk. Then you'd have your access control section, something like, we maintain a documented list of employees and contractors, including what systems they access and their access level. We review this list quarterly to ensure access remains appropriate. When someone changes roles, we update their access promptly. When someone leaves the firm, we follow a documented offboarding procedure to remove all access. From there, you'd add sections on encryption, authentication, monitoring, incident response, training, vendor management, and compliance. Each section describes what you do and what policies or procedures you have in place. That's it for today's episode. If what we talked about resonated with you, I'd encourage you to take the next step. Head over to safeguardgrc.com. That's safeguardgrc.com. It's the platform I built specifically for CPA firms to manage everything we've been discussing: your risk assessments, your policies, your access reviews, your vendor oversight, your training documentation. All in one place, mapped directly to the FTC Safeguards Rule and IRS Publication 4557. You don't need to figure this out alone, and you don't need to build it from scratch. Safeguard GRC walks you through it module by module, so you can get your governance program up and running without becoming a security expert. Whether you're just getting started or you're preparing for your next insurance renewal, it gives you the structure and the documentation to do it right. While you're there, check out the book, The Governance Gap, for the full picture of how CPA firms are meeting these requirements without overhauling their operations. And if you found this episode helpful, share it with a colleague. Chances are they're dealing with the same questions you are. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.